Okay, here we have the long-awaited Smalltown Penelope, who I just think that's the cutest name ever. So I'm calling her Penelope or Pen for short. Her last connection's called her Poppy, which is also super cute. So this mare is unbelievable. Well, actually, I'm not exactly sure what she sticks because she was not a big fan of the stick, and I just wasn't willing to make a mountain out of a molehill. But she's definitely at least 17 hands, if not higher. She's absolutely massive. And what's so big about her isn't just her height, which is surely very tall, but her body is gigantic. I mean, the horse is just huge. I had to break out my 54 girth for the first time since I had a warm blood like 4 or 5 years ago. I had to go find it. I didn't even know where it was, and then I had to like get all the dust and dirt off of it so I could use it. She's ginormous. She's a 9-year-old thoroughbred mare by Seville, which is incredible breeding. She's unraced. I didn't get her from a racing connection. She's been in Hunter Jumper World for the last couple of years. She has a USEF number, which only shows one, excuse me, one rated show on it. I'm sure that obviously she's been to a bunch of local and unrated things, but she has the one on her record, which I think is from 2023. So she's been in Hunter Jumperland for quite some time. She came to me through old connections of mine, someone that I know now that I knew through my childhood riding instructor from when I was literally like 5 years old, that I've known for almost my whole life. And her past owner, I've gotten a few other horses from in the past, and unfortunately their barn is closing. So that is why she's here now. And so I think related to those circumstances, she's had about the last year off. So you're looking at the first time anyone has sat on her in about a year. And so this is not a perfect ride by any means. And I'm not putting it out there on the internet to say that this is perfection. It's not. I actually think it's quite bad, but I think that the horse is so magnificent and I'm just so excited about her that I just kind of want to share, like, here's where we started. This is the first ride, what we had. And to be honest with you, a lot of things need to get better. She's a little bit unsure of the contact, and she's not exactly straight all the time. And sometimes she gets a little quick, other times she gets a little slow. There's a lot of things here that needs to get polished up and made better. But I think that you can't lose sight of the fact that this is a huge athletic horse who has not been ridden in a year, and she allowed me to work on those things today in her first ride. There was no nonsense whatsoever. There's no crow hopping, there's no bucking, there's no spooking, there's no bolting. There was no nonsense or silliness that needed to be managed before we could start working on the work. She just was straight to serious business, happy to work. So I really, actually, I'm so thankful to her for having such a great brain and attitude. And these are all things that you're going to expect to have to work on with the horse after they've had a year off. And especially because she's coming from Hunter Jumperland, and I'm no Hunter Jumper rider. So I'm sure that I am talking to her in a slightly different language, maybe not a different language, but maybe with a different accent than what she's used to. I want her to be a bit more up and out than I'm sure she's been ridden in the past. And so yeah, we just kind of have to get our signals aligned. And actually, super embarrassingly, like a couple times I made some ridiculous mistakes. I think the first time I asked her to canter, she stepped into this huge canter and I like lost my balance and like hit her on the back with my butt. Like, how embarrassing and terrible is that? And she was just so kind. She didn't take advantage. She didn't hold it against me. She just very patiently allowed me to try again. And when I asked better, she did better. So what a good girl. Now, as we kind of trotted around there, things actually did smooth out quite a bit. And it goes without saying that the horse is just unbelievably talented. She's extraordinary. Watching her move is pretty cool. Sitting on her back is like a whole nother amazing thing. So the trot work really did get smoothed out as we went. I also do a bit of canter work here coming up next. The canter is a little harder than the trot work, kind of to be expected. That's always how it goes. Interestingly, she actually found the left a little bit harder than the right. So I start to the left because I always kind of assume that the left is going to be easier, even though that's not always the case. And then the left felt a little bit hard. So then we changed, went to the right, got it pretty smooth in the right, and then went back to the left. And, I thought it finished well, but there's a lot to work on in the canter. However, it just comes a little bit at a time. And actually, given that, I'm sure in a couple of rides she'll be polished up pretty quick. It'll come right back to her because she has a great attitude and she's really happy to be doing the job. I'm riding her in a D-ring snaffle with a peanut in the middle, and I actually really liked her in that. I almost put her in a loose ring, but I'm glad I didn't because she's really, really soft in her mouth. And so whenever you're seeing bobbles in the contact, it's not because she's hard in her mouth at all. It's just the opposite, actually, is she's so soft in her mouth. I'm trying so hard to stay still in my seat, in my upper body, in my hands, all of it. And when I make a little mismove or lose my balance, that's sort of when you're seeing that bobble, is that my it was my fault that I sort of lost the connection, the steadiness and the connection for her. So anyway, that just leads me back to, I'm glad that I had the fixed side piece on her and not the loose ring. I certainly didn't need any more movement in her mouth. She wants some steadiness. So I'll probably actually switch her into some sort of soft rubber straight bar for the next time out. A little bit of this is also just some steering. She's not 100% wanting to turn when I'm asking her to turn, so I'm trying to stay super still in my body. But you also have to. There's a couple of hard lines, right, when you're riding these guys. They have to steer. That's just a basic rule of life. So when she kind of tries to ignore me a couple of times, asking her to circle, so then you have to make some clear lines of, okay, I'm going to ask you to turn. You actually must turn. That's non-negotiable. And then here things start to smooth out a bit. That's much better. And the canter is just unbelievably balanced and athletic and uphill. And she is a humongous horse, but everything about her is light and athletic. She's soft in her mouth. She feels very light on her feet. There is nothing about her that feels, like large or clunky whatsoever. Now, this little bit to the left here, this is definitely the hardest little piece for her. And there's a couple of bits that she gets a little fussy, and I almost cut it out, but then I thought, what the hell, who cares? Might as well show the whole journey. And I'll also say that I'm very 50-50 on whether or not I actually want to sell this horse. My heart does not want to sell her, but my bank account wants me to. So I'm not sure yet which is going to win. I've got two personal horses, and I sent one of them off to my friend to get some miles at prelim for the first half of the season, so I don't have him at the moment. And then my other one, Seven, he's going through some crazy foot soreness episode that I'm trying to figure out, and I've not been successful yet. So he's currently lame. So I don't actually have either of my personal horses available or rideable at the moment, which I know, this is a very first world problem. It's not a real problem in the scheme of life. However, it is making me think, this horse is extraordinary. How often do horses like this come through your barn? And, what the hell? I might as well keep her and ride her and develop her, because especially right now, I don't have anything else to ride. However, the other half of me is being reminded of all the insane expenses I have associated with my two personal horses right now. So I'm not sure yet which side of me will win. Well, and then there's also the other thought that if you were ever going to breed yourself a sport horse and you wanted a nice thoroughbred mare to start with, it really couldn't be nicer than this. But that's just another crazy thought. Okay, so I did stick her on the lunge line before I got on because I'm actually a chicken. I don't know if that's a known fact or not, but I am, and I am really a chicken about big horses. So either I was going to stick her on the line before I got on, or I was going to have Billy get on first, but I really wanted to get on, so I decided to stick her on the lunge line for a minute. So I did, and obviously she's an incredible mover. That goes without saying. Is this a horse that's going to need to get lunged every time before you ride her? No, absolutely not. But it's a chilly, windy day. She's not been ridden in a year. She's in a brand new place. Her rider's a chicken. So yeah, we spent a couple of minutes on the lunge line to make sure that her brain was settled and she felt comfortable and all that good stuff, which of course she did. And we don't have video of the mounting block because, again, along the chicken theme, I had Billy stand with her at the mounting block. But she's perfect at the mounting block and she does not need that, as you would expect.